So my name is Clément Collin-Drapy, or Collin. I won't get offended if you use one or the other. As Mr. Van Ypersel said, I'm slightly older, but please don't call me old. I'm only from 1995, so I graduated in 2018, which was only 3 years ago, but with everything that has happened, sounds like an eternity to most of you. At the time, I studied the macroeconomics and development track, which doesn't exist anymore, but again, it is part of the main curriculum currently taught at Aix-Marseille School of Economics. Sorry. I now work as a third-party relationships, that's quite a mouthful, analyst at CACES Bank, Luxembourg branch, so I will talk a little bit more about that later. Just to give you an overview of my full curriculum, so I did my whole curriculum at university, so I never went to a business school or whatever. I did my bachelor's degree here in Aix-en-Provence at the time, and then I did my master's degree at Aix-Marseille School of Economics, only including as well an Erasmus during my third year, in Durham University, England. So all of my curriculum was university material. So what about CACES, so the company I'm working on? So I would like to talk about many things today. I'm going to talk about the company, CACES. I'm going to talk about my job. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the VIE or VIE program, which some of you probably know already. And I will talk about Luxembourg, where I currently live and work, which I think can be a great opportunity for internships and first experiences after your diploma. Okay, so what is CACES Bank? So CACES Bank is part of a banking group that many of you know, which is Crédit Agricole, but CACES Bank in itself is an investment bank, and most of all, it is what we call a global custodian. So it is specialized in asset custody and acts as a global custodian. So what does it mean? It means that the bank in itself is authorized to keep the assets of its clients, which are mainly investment funds, on the behalf of the client. So it's a bit similar to when you go to your commercial bank and you put money on an account. It's still your money, but you give it to the bank, and they are allowed to keep it in your name. That's roughly the same thing, but for investment funds, and instead of money, it is cash flows, equities, stocks from the stock market, government bonds, any kind of financial product you can possibly dream or not dream of. So this slide, I'm not gonna dive too deep on it. Unfortunately, it's in French. It was provided by the Human Resources, but it gives you a scope of all the different institutions that are using this kind of services. If you have any question on that, you can ask me later this afternoon. I will gladly dive a little deeper on it. But mainly, who are our clients? We have management funds and management companies. We have insurance companies. We have banks, pension funds, we have private funds, investment funds, brokers and dealers, and sometimes companies directly as well. So just to give you a few numbers, so first of all, talking about CACES itself. So I told you that it was part of the Crédit Agricole group, but in 2020, it was also merged with the Santander group, which is, I don't know if we have some South American or Spanish-speaking students in the room, but it is quite a big group across the world, and especially in Latin and Southern America. So now both of those entities are part of the same thing. So Crédit Agricole is roughly 52 million clients and over 138,000 employees, and Santander is 145 million clients, so almost triple the size, and a little under 200,000 employees. So two big groups that merged together to join forces and create a bigger custody offer across the world. A few more statistics as well. So this is to roughly give you an idea of how many assets are kept by CACES as a group. So when I say CACES as a group, it is not just Luxembourg, it is the whole group. So it can be Paris, it can be Belgium, it's all the different entities. So we have currently little over 4,000 billion of euros of assets that are kept. So that's the assets that are belonging to our clients. Among this number, over 2,000 are administrated by CACES, which means we do not only keep the assets, we also do the management of the funds. And including this, we also have 1,500 billion, which are directly kept by CACES. I will explain a little further on what I mean by directly, because we act as a custodian, but on some market we have to use what we call sub-custodian, because you can't keep a security from, let's say, a South African market in Luxembourg, so you have to work with a South African bank, for example. So this is our current implementation across the world. So it has grown considerably bigger since we've merged with Santander. The main CACES branches, which are purely CACES and not Santander involved, are Luxembourg. France is the main one, of course. Belgium, Switzerland, Italy, United Kingdom, Ireland, and I think we also have antennas in Canada and Hong Kong for CACES directly. So what do we do? Because it's a good thing to talk about what is a custodian bank, but I also have to talk to you about the services that we provide. So what we do is we provide a various range of financial services to investment funds. So just to clear something up, because maybe some of you are not too confident with what is an investment fund. I know I wasn't at the time because I wasn't studying finance specifically. So what is an investment fund? It's an entity created to collectively hold financial products. So when I say financial products, it can be any kind of securities, equities, bonds, private and real estate, all of this. And what do I mean by collectively is that by investing in an investment fund, you're going to detain a share of the fund, and you're not going to detain the stock directly. So for example, if you buy a share of I don't know, let's say Amazon or Apple, you own a share of that company, but if you invest in an investment fund, you're going to own a share of the portfolio, which is made of many different assets. So it is a way to invest in a much broader market at a smaller, eventually, entry price, because you can just invest as much as you want in it. We have two different types of investment funds in Luxembourg. We have the UCITS, or OPCVM in French, funds, which are basically a European regulation that is made specifically for investment funds, and the AIF alternative investment funds, which are not UCITS. It's basically all the other funds. We also have some funds that are neither, but that's a bit of a specificity, so I won't dive too much into that. So what is an asset servicer responsible for? So CACES is responsible for a lot of post-market activities. So that include middle office, that includes the role of a depository bank, the fund administration, the risk and the performance reporting. What do we do it for? So we do it for financial assets, so as I was telling you, securities, so equities, bonds, derivatives, cash as well. And we also do it for physical assets, so real estate, private equity, and infrastructure. For which kind of clients? Mainly for institutional clients, and also for the buy side of the transaction and for the sell side. So that can include assets managers, insurances, brokers, dealers, a vast universe of intermediaries that are necessary to trade on markets today. So now I'm going to talk to you about my job a little more and what it is I do specifically at CACES. So I am a third-party relationships analyst. We also call it network analyst, but I don't want to use that term because it sounds like I work in IT, and I don't. You saw I wasn't able to fix a computer myself. But what we do basically is we are in charge of opening and managing the investment accounts that are going to be needed by our clients, the investment funds, to invest on some markets. So let's say tomorrow you want to invest in securities that are European. It's going to be quite easy because it's an open market, accounts are already open. But if you want to invest in some smaller or emergent markets, or even some more restricted markets, you will need to open a specific account. And from one market, it can be very easy. From another, it can take you up to a year in terms of documentations, of work with the consulate to obtain some papers. It's a very heavy work, and we need a specific team for that, and that's the team that I'm part of. So we do that. We also do some portfolio analysis. So when a client wants to invest somewhere, they send us a portfolio, and we tell them, okay, we see that you want to invest here and there, you have to do this and that. So we work constantly with the client on that point. We do a daily follow-up of our clients and a regular general analysis of the markets we work on, because of course, markets are subject to change, and after 2020 even more, because sometimes the regulations can change in 2 months and then you have to redo everything again. So it is a constant vigilant observation of what's happening in the global economy. And I will talk to that, about that a little later, but that's why the master's degree in itself was also very helpful, because it gives you a broader picture of what is happening around in terms of economical issues. What else do I do? What else do I do on my job? Yeah, that's roughly it, managing the network of sub-custodians. We also prepare the visits when they come to us, and we have to do some due diligences. And mainly, it's just that. It's making sure that all the work is laid out and ready for them to invest on all the markets that they want to invest on. So now I'm going to talk to you about Luxembourg, because as you can imagine, CACES Bank Luxembourg branch, I'm not working in Manila in the Philippines. I wished. No, it is in Luxembourg, like the name indicates. I'm doing this small presentation because I know it's not always very known by people. It's a very small country, but I think it could be an interesting lead for you to eventually look for internships or jobs after you graduate. Even though it's not CACES, I hope it will be CACES, of course, but just to give you a broader view of what can be proposed to you in terms of jobs and internships. So it is a small country, as I was saying. It is landlocked between France, Belgium, and Germany. It is mainly focused on financial activity. It used to be a farming state in the 60s, 80s, and then they revamped the whole economy and decided it would be focused on banking and institutions. That's also probably why some of you may have this idea that Luxembourg is a fiscal paradise. Let me tell you right now, it's not. Maybe 50 years ago, but not anymore. So don't get any hopes of not paying taxes. You will do. But it is a lovely little country. It's a constitutive monarchy, and we don't have a president or anything. We have a Grand Duke, which sounds a bit funny, I know, but it's worth mentioning. The official language is Luxembourgish, and the two main administrative languages are French and German. But it is also a very international country. We have over 170 nationalities across the whole country. The whole country itself is 600,000 inhabitants, so it's very small. It's probably a few arrondissements of Marseille put together. But yeah, it is a very nice place, very multicultural. So if you like this kind of atmosphere, you will feel very welcome here. It is also important to mention it's one of the 4 European centers, with Strasbourg, Frankfurt, and Brussels. So if you're maybe inclined in working in the European institutions, Luxembourg could be a good lead, and I know those institutions do take a lot of interns as well. Just to link it back to investment funds, it is also the second most specialized and proficient and everything you want country in the world regarding investment funds. The first one being the United States. So of course it's the first one in Europe, but it's the second in the world. That tells you how focused on that industry specifically this little country is. Just to give you a quick map, because it's not always easy to put it on the map. It's right below Belgium and right above Strasbourg and the region of Lorraine. It can be quite cold during winter. That's why I took a jacket and I'm not wearing it. Just a few quick pictures to show you what it looks like. It's really green, really lush, really nice little place that I told you already about. It's statistics about UCITS funds. Okay. What I'm going to talk to you about right now is the integration and recruitment process at CACES, because that's what you woke up for this morning, the prospect of eventually obtaining an internship or a job after. And I think we should talk about that a little more. So what happens when you are recruited with CACES is you have, of course, an integration at the first of the 15th of the month. An integration day, all of this is a bit modified with COVID, as you can imagine. You have access to all the advantages that other employees do have access to. And you can follow up after your internship in a VIE, or VIE in French, or a temporary, sometimes permanent as well, contract. So I think the numbers were updated a little in 2021, but in 2020, 38% of our interns stayed in the companies and find either a permanent or temporary contracts with us. And I think this year it is around 42, the numbers, despite everything that has happened with the sanitary crisis. So if you are eventually interested to stay, it is possible. Just to give you a brief overview, we can talk about this a little deeper this afternoon. So the salary as an intern is 1,300 euros for a Master 1, 1,500 euros for a Master 2. You also have all the ticket restaurant, the advantages, all of that. Holidays is pretty standard, 13 days for a 6 months internship. Working time is important to mention, is 40 hours a week in Luxembourg. I know it sounds a lot, especially when you're French and you're used to the 35 hours format. It's not, it flies by, so don't worry too much about that. And yeah, that's just to give you a rough overview of what an internship would be like. And the VIE contract, I'm going to talk to you about it because that's how I started in CACES. So when I graduated in October 2018, I found my VIE in February 2019, and I had been looking for a job for roughly a month and a half. So it was all real quick. I cannot recommend this program enough. It is a fantastic opportunity because you join the working force not as an intern, but as a proper member of the team. You are given much bigger missions and much more responsibility. It also pays much more than an internship, which is always a good thing, especially when you're a student. You have a few conditions that you need to respect to be part of this program. You need to be 28 years old or less than that. You need to be French or have any of the European Union nationality, although the program is trying to open up even more now. You need to detain a master's degree, so it is not applicable for bachelor's degree, but I think it is changing as well, and they're broadening it a little. And you need to live in the country that you work in. So in my case, for example, I was mandated to live in Luxembourg. I couldn't live at the French border or anything. It's part of the contract. So if you decide to do a VIE in Brazil, you will have to move to Brazil. That sounds rather lovely. But, I chose Luxembourg. I like the rain and the gray weather. So, talking about salary and advantages, so as I told you, the salary as a VIE is based on a medium decided for each country. So it is the organism that handles VIE programs, which is called Business France, that decides how much money you will get, and your company gives you a little more, and it balances out to a number for Luxembourg around 2,500. You still get all the advantages I was talking to you about as an intern. It does count for your pension contribution. I know it's very far away, but it's not a lost year. And something worth mentioning is that you don't pay taxes if you are a VIE student, because since you are working for a French government organism, Business France, abroad, they consider you don't have to pay taxes. So that's a good break for a first experience. If you have any question on that, the whole VIE program, we can talk about it a little further this afternoon. Okay, so giving you the links that might be useful to you, we have our global CACES website, https jobs.caces.com, and the one below for the Groupe Crédit Agricole jobs. You have an internship and a VIE section, so you will find everything there. I didn't include my personal email address, but I will give it to you this afternoon. Why not my work address? It's because otherwise all your emails are gonna end up in the common mailbox, and I don't want to do that to my colleague. That would be pretty petty. So I will give you my address this afternoon when you come and see me at the table directly. All right, another way you can follow CACES and keep up with what they're doing. They're on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram as well. And that's all for me today regarding CACES. I just want to give a little conclusion word about what you're doing right now. I know being a student is not always easy. You are lucky to have incredible professors at Aix-Marseille School of Economics, and it is really an excellent formation, and I don't mean that because I've been there or whatever, trying to be as objective as I can, which is not really objective, but you know. But I think you should really take the time to cherish these years here and take as much as you can, because this will help you a lot in your working life. And even if what you're studying now is not exactly what you're going to do as a job, it will never be. You will always have to be trained to do something more. It's going to give you the skill set and the tools to do well after you graduate. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And one little point, if you have a small idea in your head of something that you want to do, or maybe that you don't, it's fine as well, follow that. Don't listen to the negative background, to the negative feedback, anything of that. Trust yourself, believe in yourself, and at the end of the day, anyone who is a bit too a non-believer, let's say, pay it no mind. Just do your thing and you will do fine. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I will see you this afternoon. Thank you.